Hey guys, I'm Dov, and today I'm back with more Total War Warhammer 2 online action. Today we're back with the Tomb King's good old Grandpa KhatEK on his mobility scooter. We're going to be taking on the Skaven. Wanted to have a little bit more of a discussion about Chariots today and sort of how to use them. So let's go over the builds quickly. Of course, KhatEK on the Chariot. Main role for him is to run around and do double vortex. So he's got Sandstorm and Incantation of the Skull Storm. So yeah, he's going to be doing his DJ thing, dropping those sick beats. I'm hoping you guys can picture Darude Sandstorm. Obviously I can't play it in the video because of copyright reasons, but just, you know, imagine it. I'm sure you guys have all heard it before. Imagine it in your head as this video goes on. It's going to be a fun one. And yeah, being on the Chariot also gives him 95 armor and pretty good mobility as well with 74 speed. One of the better mount choices for KhatEK in my opinion. And of course we've got plenty of other Chariots here. 2 units of Skeleton Chariots here. And then way over on this side, we've got 2 more Skeleton Chariots and 2 Skeleton Archer Chariots. So 6 units of Chariots in total. We've also got 3 units of Skeleton Horsemen Archers. I actually like these guys against the Skaven quite a bit. Don't really like them in a lot of other matchups because they're pretty slow for light cavalry. They're actually the slowest light cavalry in the game, I believe, but they do have 140 range, which is pretty decent. And again, the Skaven don't really have any really fast attack units that can catch them, so they're relatively safe in this matchup. For the infantry line, we've got skeleton spearmen, some skeleton warriors, and for the elite anti-large AP, we do have the Regiment of Renown Sphinx of Usek. So for our Skaven opponents here, we've got Lord Scrollk on foot with an assassin, no surprises there. Front line of plague monks with some clan rat spears and Skaven slave spears. He's got 4 units of rat ogres, which are going to be by far and away the biggest danger to my chariots. We've also got, let's see here, lots of Skaven slave slingers. Looks like 6 units of Skaven slave slingers and a storm vermin with halberd in the back. So without further ado, let's get the battle underway. You can see my skeleton horsemen just moving up. Obviously, my priority target is going to be the rat ogres, because if I can shut down the rat ogres, my chariots will be more or less free to just run over the entire Skaven formation at will. So you can see I'm trying to pull these rat ogres away. My opponent doing a very good job just returning fire here with these Skaven slave slingers. Very cheap and very cost effective at kind of keeping those skeleton horsemen archers at least pushed back momentarily. The rat ogres are also in a good position here to screen out. I could potentially come in for a charge from a few different angles here, but so far nothing. Now I'm going to send forward the Sphinx of Usek to act as a bit of a line breaker here. You know, my opponent doesn't have a whole lot of elite anti-large AP, so let's pop it into slow motion real quick. We can watch what's happening. So, yeah, I'm sending this guy here to kind of force a big blob in the center, and this is going to make my opponent make some decisions. If he rushes all his rat ogres into here, you know, my chariots are going to be free to clip the wings of the formation. I did charge in with some chariots here to get into some plague monks and some spears as well, and we're going to be quickly pulling back away there. You can see, meanwhile, in the back line, the skeleton archers, skeleton horsemen archers, just kind of posting up. I'm also using the archer chariots to fire at the rat ogres as well, and this is the most important thing, is you've got to stay moving. Skeleton chariots, both of them, just immediately pulling away. We got one good charge in and immediately pulling back through our own lines. We've also pulled the Sphinx back just a little bit here. Now that I see that there are a couple high-value infantry units blobbed up right here, we're going to go ahead and have KhatEK drop his double vortex here. So yeah, this is a pretty devastating magic torrent unleashed here, and yeah, it's going to do quite a bit of damage, especially like those plague monks and the storm vermin, 2 very high value units of infantry already taking a lot of damage. Meanwhile, over here you can see the chariots. I'm trying to kind of operate them in the area of these skeleton spearmen so that I can screen these rat ogres off, so I'm continuously keeping them moving. Meanwhile, in the back line, the archer chariots are also getting in here, and again, the biggest thing with the chariots is you've got to keep them moving. You know, charging in and out and also going back through your own lines can be very, very helpful. The Sphinx of Usek is doing okay because my opponent only came in with a couple of the rat ogres. They ended up getting taken down. You can see one unit gets terrified away there. I mean, the Sphinx of Usek did take some damage, but we're going to use that physical resistance and healing to put him back in the fight there. And yeah, the rat ogres here taking a lot of damage from the skeleton horseman archers. Unfortunately, they are bogged down on some spears, and again, you can see a bit danger close here to the rat ogres, but the chariots have to stay moving. And that's the biggest thing, is that the chariots do impact damage. So what you want to do is you want to click a charge, and then immediately you can see these guys come, charge in, and then I immediately pull away. And you don't even necessarily have to immediately charge into another target, but just you have to stay moving. And against the Skaven, because their infantry are all very, very low mass, if they don't have rat ogres, you can stay moving. And you can see KhatEK actually runs through the opposing lines here to screen out this assassin, and some of the rat ogres as well get caught up on the skeleton spearmen here. So yeah, KhatEK gets safe and through. Did take the Liber Bubonicus there, and also has trophy heads on him, so he was in a potentially very dangerous situation, but we were able to squeeze him through there. And yeah, I mean, these Skaven Slave Slingers could potentially open up fire on him, but looks like we're going to be dropping another Vortex as the Sphinx Fusek comes in to try and finish off some of these Rat Ogres in this pocket. Again, just priority targeting the Rat Ogres, as they are the biggest threat to the Chariots. That being said, at this point, most of them are offline, to the point where the Chariots are able to more or less do whatever they want. So yeah, we're going to be running over these Plague Monks here. You can see we're chasing off the Rat Ogres a little bit jankily here with the Chariots, but yeah, the Sphinx, also relatively healthy here, is going to now be going after Lord Skrolk, and once his leadership is down, we should be able to finish off the Skaven here. You can see a couple Rat Ogres did come back from route, but again, Chariots still moving, even just against Skaven Slaves. I mean, obviously the Skaven Slaves won't do a whole lot of damage to the Chariots in melee, but still, in order for the Chariots to do the damage that they need to, you've got to stay moving. And that's not really a big problem, again, with the very light Skaven troops. Can be a bigger issue against heavier infantry, certainly. Dwarves historically have been relatively weak to Chariots because they have no sort of high-mass large units besides like gyrocopters, and you really don't want to be putting your gyrocopters in melee against Chariots. I mean, it just sounds awkward, but yeah, it doesn't really work out very well. I mean, Dwarf infantry has got some mass buffs over time, but still can potentially be pretty dangerous, especially when you get charged in the side or rear by Chariots. But again, the same concepts still apply when you're fighting the Dwarves. You want to make sure your Chariots stay moving as much as possible, and you don't get bogged down. And yeah, same goes for Lords and Heroes on Chariots as well. I mean, obviously they would follow sort of the same. Oh man, and a brutal side charge there coming in from the Chariots on that unit of Summoned Plague Monks there, and the non-Summoned Plague Monks as well, just both getting run over super hard. But yeah, Lords and Heroes on Chariots also very, very powerful, but again, same concept applies. You just want to keep them moving as much as possible and not let them ever get bogged down. And yeah, another key is against factions which do have mobile, especially like traditional cavalry units, mobile high mass units that can stop up Chariots. You can still use Chariots against them. You just need to be aware that you're going to have some threats, and you need to focus them in order for your Chariots to be effective. Like, for example, against the Dark Elves, they traditionally don't have the strongest cavalry game. They do have some powerful cavalry units, but like if you can take out their Doomfire Warlocks and their Dark Riders, for example, or if they maybe brought some Cold One Knights, then your Chariots will be more or less free to run over their infantry. So, I mean, the same sort of concept as in this battle, with me neutralizing the Rat Ogres as much as possible. You can see that allowed the Chariots to get a whole lot of work done. 109, 137, 176, yeah, lots and lots of kills, 60. One of the units of Chariots did get shut down pretty hard, but KhatEK himself able to rack up 154 on his own Chariot with the double Vortex there, so pretty good stuff. Only 45 kills for the Sphinx Fusek, but again, it just acts as kind of a big anchor, and I mean, it's like the distraction Carnifex, right? And beyond the fact that it does a ton of damage, it's going to focus a lot of your opponent's attention, certainly, and did also help in dealing with the Rat Ogres, of course. If my opponent had chosen to bring like a Hell Pit Abomination or, a Plague Furnace or anything like that, Sphinx Fusek obviously would be very good at that situation as well. So yeah, we've kind of got our anti-cav / anti-large tools here, and obviously in this specific matchup, I know that Skeleton Horsemen Archers in particular are very good counters to the Rat Ogres, so I can kind of plan for that in this specific matchup. In other matchups, obviously, you would want to have other tools to deal with whatever mobile units you think you're going to need to take out. Certainly it's much more viable to use Chariots against some factions than others. Like against Bretonnia, for example, I would probably say you almost never want to bring Chariots just because they're tend to be known as a very elite cavalry faction, and so your chariots probably won't have that much infantry to run over. But in general, any matchup where you think your opponent's going to go very infantry heavy, you'll want to bring chariots. The exception I would say to that is the lizardmen. Saurus are a little bit too heavy to run over effectively with chariots. They're some of the heaviest infantry models in the game, so I would definitely not recommend chariot builds against the lizardmen in general. I mean, they certainly can work, but Saurus are just so heavy that it's really tough to keep your chariots moving against them. But yeah, in general, like, let's just take the Tomb Kings as an example. If we were going to be facing, like, let's say the Dark Elves, and just for the sake of the argument here, I'm going to keep KhatEK, and we're going to change out his spell loadout a little bit here. Rather than taking the double Vortex, we're just going to take Cursed Blades and the Incantation Protection. Lich Staff as well is pretty good. And then, yeah, so like against a more a traditional faction, let's say like the Dark Elves, for example. Here, you know, you may want to take some tools to win the mobility engagement so that your chariots can be a little bit more effective. Obviously, you probably wouldn't want to go quite as heavily into the chariots, but I mean, obviously, like Ushabti Greatbows can shoot at, you know, Dark Riders, and they can shoot at the Doomfire Warlocks. I'm forgetting some names, guys, so bear with me here a little bit, but, you know, they can help win that phase. You really don't have too many fast attack units as the Tomb Kings that can catch those fast cavalry. Carrion can sort of tie them down while your Ushabti Greatbows shoot at them, but something like this potentially where, you know, you just kind of hold your chariots back until all your opponent's mobile units are more or less dealt with. Then you throw in your chariots at the opportune moment and just blow up their entire infantry line. Yeah, again, this is just all sort of theory crafting. I haven't actually tried this against the Dark Elves, so take it with a grain of salt, but something tells me it could potentially be decent. Nehekara Horsemen also could trade okay in this cavalry engagement. I mean, they'll do pretty well against Dark Riders. I mean, they'll lose, obviously, to Doomfire Warlocks. I mean, I say obviously. I'd actually be curious to see if you gave them this the Overcast Cursed Blades here, which again, for those of you guys who don't know, if you Overcast Incantation of Cursed Blades, only costs 2 more Winds of Magic, but it gives you a plus 16 bonus versus large, which is an awesome ability to have, especially when you're, like, say, again, putting these Nehekara Horsemen up against something like Doomfire Warlock. They'll trade much more cost effectively with that bonus versus large, so maybe you have a couple Nehekara Horsemen just to act as that role. If we could manage to squeeze out a little bit more gold here somewhere, you could even afford a couple of Skeleton Horsemen to act as flank protectors as well. Yeah, you'd have to come in here and cut something like maybe like the Curse. Yeah, that'd probably be the thing I'd be most comfortable cutting to make that work, but something like this I think could potentially be solid. Again, this is just sort of theory crafting, but let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. Hope you guys enjoyed watching. If you do like this sort of content, be sure to like, subscribe, hit that bell notification button so every time I upload a new video, you'll be notified. Thanks again for watching. We'll see you next time.